Hello, Crucible Companions. Welcome to the next KeyForge video. Before we jump right into our 6th Age of Ascension deck, halfway through the display, I wanted to mention I had thought about the shorts. I think deck openings could be cool, it could be a really good idea, but I don't think that it'll work. I realize that the shorts have to be less than a minute, and I don't know that I could stop myself from going deeper in depth with all of it. So most likely what I'll end up doing is you might see some shorts content coming out about unique card combos that I think are really cool in KeyForge. Not stuff that's like inherently combo like the Four Horsemen or anything that like says it combos, at least not immediately. And then it'll be stuff more that combos but doesn't say, hey, I combo with this specific card. So I'm not sure when that'll be coming out. It might even have come out before you guys have seen this video. So go and look for that if it's up or not. And if not, then eventually I'll put one up there. I don't plan on putting a schedule to the shorts or anything like that, but alrighty. So here we are with our 6th deck. Houses are Sanctum, Mars, Shadows, some good houses. Got a yellow Archon, looks pretty cool here. Some like robo arms, the Sanctum robes. Lionpetus, Forest Advisor. That's a good name. With Mars, we could hope for Ganka. We could also just always hope for some shards. It'd be interesting to see what comes out of this. My last deck was actually pretty awesome. I played it a time or two, and it plays really well, surprisingly. So, I will be right back with the card breakdown. Alrighty, welcome back to the card breakdown. Got a closer look at the Archon like always. Looks pretty cool, you can see it a lot better here. I like the name a lot, Lionpetus Forest Advisor. Be a little bit better if there was some strong Untamed in it, but it's A-okay. Maybe we'll get the House Ambassador from Sanctum again in one of these. Alrighty. Set the Archon card to the side there. Ooh, and we're starting off with a pretty good card. We've got Treasure Map. We're starting in Shadows. It's a action card. I thought it was an artifact for some reason. Gain 1 amber from the amber bonus. Then play. If you have not played any other cards this turn, gain 3 amber. For the remainder of the turn, you cannot play cards. Interesting. That's 4 amber. This is a great turn 1 card. The turn 1 card. Right next to Eureka. And we've got 2 rares in Shadows. Second rare is Heist Knight. Alpha. Play. Steal 1 amber for each friendly thief creature. Awesome. So we're looking for a lot of thieves in here. Let's hope we can get some Ronnie wrist clocks. Then we've got another action, Nightforge. We just saw this one in maybe, was it 1 or 2 decks ago? You get an amber bonus for playing it. It's a key cheat. If you have not forged a key this turn, you may forge a key at +4 current cost. Oh, and then Hideaway Hole. It's a really good artifact. It's got an amber bonus on it. Omni, sacrifice Hideaway Hole. Creatures you control gain elusive until the start of your next turn. Good way to set up a kind of protective barrier, especially since it's Omni. You can kind of hold off fighting for most of your creatures for a turn or 2. Then we've got Whistling Darts, gain an amber. It's an action. Play, deal 1 damage to each enemy creature. 2 of those, not bad. Umbra, fantastic, a thief creature. 2 power with Skirmish. Fight, steal 1 amber. He's got a quote on him there at the bottom. When the fighting's done, the real work begins. Nice. Then we've got Throwing Stars, a combo that I love a lot. Whistling Darts and Throwing Stars. It's the action. Play, deal 1 damage to up to 3 different creatures. Gain 1 amber for each creature destroyed this way. Just one of those. Then we got Sucker Punch. We got some decent creature control so far, it seems, and protection. We got an amber bonus on the action. It is Alpha. Play, deal 2 damage to an enemy creature. If the creature is destroyed by this effect, archive Sucker Punch. Sinks that we have 2 alphas with Heist Knight and Sucker Punch, but I think with Sucker Punch archiving itself, if we can hopefully get into it before Heist Knight, we can get it archived and then just not pick it up on a Heist Knight turn. The man of the hour, the person that we were very specifically looking for Ronnie Wristclocks, 2-power elf thief creature. Play, steal 1 amber. If your opponent has 7 or more, steal 2. Oh, Miasma, fantastic action, amber bonus. And then on play, your opponent skips their Forge a Key step next turn. Knuckles Bolton is just an elusive skirmish. Not great, 3 power, but he's a thief, so that's great for Heist Knight. And that's it for Shadows. So now we're going into Sanctum with a creature that I don't think I've ever had or seen before. It's a 2-power human monk, Mother Northella. Elusive. Reap, move 1 amber from our friendly creature to your pool. Oh, that's nice. I think it's really interesting when you're looking at these Age of Ascension and Coda decks, where you can see kind of all the cards that faded out from these houses and faded into new houses. So you see stuff like this would have obviously ended up in like Saurian, so she's probably not reprinted past Age of Ascension. And then there's stuff like Commander Ramil, or Inspiration, that I don't think either of those were printed past. Inspiration wasn't printed past Coda, Ramil wasn't printed past Age of Ascension, and those are both kind of like use a creature out of house cards, and obviously those went into Star Alliance, so it's really interesting to see kind of the earlier mechanics. We've got 2 rares in Sanctum as well. Might mean that we have 0 rares in Mars, but more creature control. Mighty Lance action, play, deal 3 damage to a creature, and 3 damage to a neighbor of that creature. Oh, Gorm of Om, some good artifact control. Wow, it seems like this deck has got it all so far. It's an artifact on play, it is exhausted, and then Omni, sacrifice Gorm of Om to destroy an artifact. Ooh, Grey Rider, can we get 2 for that elusive Grey Rider rule of 6? That's a 2-power deploy, play, fight, reap. You may ready and fight with a neighboring creature. Ah, just 1. That's okay though. Take hostages is an action with an amber bonus. Play, for the remainder of the turn, each time a friendly creature fights, it captures 1. That's good for Northella. Oh, Sir Marrow's another great target for Northella. It's like an earlier version of Ether Spider. Sure, I've said that before, but 4 power, 2 armor. After your opponent gains amber by reaping, Sir Marrow's captures it. Or not an early version, but just a different kind of Ether Spider. Then we've got another action here with an amber bonus, Shield of Justice. For the remainder of the turn, each creature cannot be dealt damage. That's great in combo with our Take Hostages, just to guaranteed fight with anybody that we want to without having to worry about it. Oh, wow. More amber control. This seems to be a pretty decent deck so far. After Mimic the Mark prevents damage with its armor, capture 1 amber from each damage just prevented. Kind of capture with those fighting. Ooh, Shall the Safeguard, 4 power, 2 armor with deploy and taunt. There's one of those. Lion Baltrum with deploy. Lion Baltrum's neighbors get +2 power. We've got so many deploy Sanctum creatures, we're just gonna, on Sanctum turns, completely remake our board line. 2 Lion Baltrums. 3 Lion Baltrums. Oh man. Okay. That was it for Sanctum. Not bad. Not bad at all. Decent amber control. So then we started off in Mars. We do have a rare. So there were 2 rares in each of the houses. Let's see if we'll get 2 in Mars maybe. With the artifact Invasion Portal. Action, discard cards from the top of your deck until you discard a Mars creature or run out of cards. If you discard a Mars creature this way, put it into your hand. Not bad. Some much needed efficiency. There are 2 rares. Wow. Hypnotic Command. It's an action. Play, for each friendly Mars creature, choose an enemy creature to capture 1 from their own side. And it's not even friendly ready Mars creatures. It's just Mars creatures. Zorg. Zorg is okay. Not a very good creature, all things said, but 7 power beast. Zorg enters play stunned. Before fight, stun the creature Zorg fights and each of its neighbors. Ooh, Exterminate. For each friendly Mars creature you control, destroy a non-Mars creature with lower power. Includes friendly ones, but we don't have any destroy effects. But we do have a lot of high power Mars creatures, it seems. Ixix Dominator, 9 power, 1 armor with taunt, and it enters play stunned. Fantastic card. Xanthix Harvester. I've already talked about my kind of love-hate relationship with Xanthix Harvester. Can't be used while it has non-Mars neighbors, but if you would reap with it, you would gain 2 because of its effect. 2 of those. Oddly enough, Xanthix Harvester if you can maintain a board, works a little bit better if you can get them next to each other, because then they can count for their own Mars neighbors. Just slap a Mars creature on either side. The Zorg and a 6/6 Dominator would be nice. Let's Reap 4 Amber. Then we've got the Visium Think drone, 3 power Reap. You may archive a friendly creature or artifact from play. That's not bad. Great way to get some more efficiency. Okay, so we've got a lot of Mars creatures. That's a good sign. 2 power, this is Mind Warper, elusive. Action, choose an enemy creature, it captures 1 from its own side. We've got a decent amount of Amber control in here. 2 Mind Warper, 3 Mind Warpers, holy moly. And we've got Carpet Flotsam. It's got an Amber bonus on it, which is most of the time what I use it for. If there are no friendly creatures in play, deal 4 damage to each creature. Wow, okay. I think the deck certainly looks promising. There's a lot of Amber control in there, a lot of creatures, some interesting combos. I'm trying to think of what all could be played out, but we'll see in the deck breakdown. Give me just a moment and I'll get that set up. Here we are, with the deck all broken down into the 4 customary piles. I point them out every time, I'm sure you're used to it, but Amber control, expected Amber, artifact control, creature control. A lot of their cards found their way here. There are a couple that are off to the side that didn't serve any of those 4 express purposes, but we've got a lot of our deck before us. Right there is the SAS number. 64, not bad. It's better than a lot of our decks. It's got no anti-synergy. The meta comes from the Gorm of Om with the artifact control. It seems like a very standard, very good deck, and it plays into its strengths in a really interesting way. A lot of this synergy actually comes from creature power, the amount of creatures that we have and different actions that benefit from that, as well as just like the things that benefit from fighting and playing into fighting and Grey Rider causing fights. It's really interesting. It's a very board-heavy deck. I think it would, here, right there are the extras and counts, wherever I pointed. Got 10 bonus Amber, so a lot of our expected Amber, about half of it comes from non-bonus Amber. But that's enough expected Amber to make it to 3 keys, playing through our deck once, so that's good. 14 action cards, which is pretty standard. 19 creature cards. I think that's about 1 creature more than the average. We didn't have any upgrades, no board wipes, no scaling Amber. 3 artifacts in the Hideaway Hole, the Invasion Portal, and the Gorm of Om. 1 key cheat with Nightforge. And then a couple things that archive. Visium Think drone letting us archive some friendly stuff, and then Sucker Punch just archiving itself. It's super interesting. Let's just get right into it. This is our Amber control here, starting with the card that I am seeing, at least in person for the very first time, Mother Northel. She is very good in this deck. There are a lot of different ways, Mars, Sanctum, and otherwise, to capture Amber. So she says, remove 1 Amber from a friendly creature to your pool. So I would gain 1, and then I would gain 1 from the capture that would have eventually returned to the opponent. So not bad, especially with like Sir Meros on the board. Then Merrick the Marked. I wish we had a way to increase his armor. That was a big thing in Age of Ascension, but we didn't receive any cards like that. So at the very least, when he fights, if he's taking damage, then he will capture 1, because it'll just go through his shield. And Sir Meros, after your opponent gains 1 Amber by reaping, or gains Amber by reaping, Sir Meros captures it. Got Miasma, forcing our opponent to skip a Forge a Key step. Very good. This later became Miasma Bomb. They stopped printing Miasma, and they turned it into an omniable artifact that has the same effect. I think it's nice to have that extra kind of step. That way, your opponent can plan around it. It makes things a little bit more skill-based. 3 Mind Warpers here. Forcing our opponent to capture onto their own creatures is awesome, just because it's Amber control, and we eventually get that as a theme with a lot of the Mars stuff. Then our Heist Knight here. It is alpha, play steal 1 Amber for each friendly thief creature. I think that we can definitely steal at least 1 off of this, maybe 2. I don't think Knuckles Bolton will be much of a target, and Ronnie Wristclocks most people don't want to kill just because he cycles faster that way, or more often. So we could probably get 1 or 2 if we get them before we get the Heist Knight. But there are only 3 Shadows creatures. All of them are thieves, but only 3. So it would be a max of 3 with Heist Knight, which isn't bad, especially since it's not Alpha and Omega like Swindle. Then we've got Take Hostages here, which is just for the remainder of the turn when friendly creature fights a capture 1, which is, again, great. With stuff like Grey Rider, we can fight outside of the house, fight with stuff like Zorg or some other things. So it's a very good card. In this deck, at the very least. And we've got Umbra here, which, again, more great fighting. So in a scenario where we could Grey Rider our Umbra with Take Hostages, we take hostages, gain an Amber, play Grey Rider, ready and fight Umbra into something. Umbra has Skirmish, well, but still, Umbra would fight into something, do 2 damage to whatever it is, capture 1, and then steal 1. Or, I guess I could determine that each time a friendly creature fights. Yeah? Well, this says after fight, so I guess it would capture then steal, which could be a bit messy. Ronnie Wrist Clocks. Sticky Fingers here. Steal 1 Amber if your opponent has 7 more, steal 2. And then Hypnotic Command. This is going to be a big one. For each friendly Mars creature, an enemy creature captures 1 into their own side. A delayed way of getting our Amber from our opponent to us. It's kind of like Psychic Network, but in a more delayed sense. And I think that's fine for this deck, because we do so much fighting in it. I think it'll pay off pretty quick. So here we are with the expected Amber. Starting off with our 2 Xanthix Harvesters, which are just the Reap Gain 2, but sometimes they're hard to use. We've got a lot of Mars creatures, though, so I think it won't be super hard to keep them surrounded. Then we've got Throwing Stars here. I always put this in Expected Amber. It can technically also be creature control. That's another thing about our Amber control and our Expected Amber, actually, is that there were a lot of cards that worked between them, just because they capture onto the opponent, or there was a way that, like, in stopping our opponent, we were gaining Amber. So with Throwing Stars, it could be in creature control, but the main piece of its effect that I always look at is that Amber gain. So this is where I put it. Nightforge, it's mostly because of its Amber bonus icon, but it kind of lends itself to you trying to generate Amber on a turn. So I always put an Expected Amber. I could probably set it to the side. Sucker Punch, very similar to Throwing Stars, could be creature control, but again, I'm always looking at that bonus. The fact that it's archivable and recurring, I'm just trying to get that Amber out. The 2 damage is nice, getting rid of targets whenever you need to, especially those low power ones with heavy passive effects is great. But again, I'm looking at that Expected Amber for the most part. And then Treasure Map, our elusive gain 4 Amber, but you can't play cards for the rest of the turn. Which could be interesting. It's like a workaround alpha. It kind of stinks just because I've got 2 other alpha cards, so it's harder to play. I'm trying to think of a scenario. I mean, if we already have Thieves on board, we're typically going to want to do like a Heist Knight. I don't know. 4 Amber's not bad. I think this is a big turn 1 play. I think a lot of the times this gets played just for its Amber bonus, so I can keep my turns rolling, especially with how slow this deck is. Artifact control is real easy. It's just our Gorm of Om here. Sacrifice to destroy another artifact. An object, no matter how sacred, is just a thing. I think the spoiler warning here, I skip ahead to the time I put up if you don't want to hear about any of the cards from Winds of Exchange, but Gorm of Om, there's another one coming in Winds of Exchange called Celestial Om, and I think it has the same exact flavor text. It's like a larger scale Gorm of Om that returns to hand instead. Here we are with our creature control. We've got Zorg for starters, enters play stunned, and then stuns the enemy creatures, which is where a lot of the presence came from. Oh, did I not put up the Amber counts? I'll put it up automatically, so you will have been seeing it. But it was 11 Amber control, 19 expected Amber, 1.8 in artifact control, and then 8.3. So very spread out, very low on the creature control section. That 1.8 is just Gorm of Om. It's just a really good artifact. So keep going. Sorry, I forgot about that. We've got our action card, Carpet Flotsam here. There are no friendly creatures. Deal 4 to each creature. so the wording there forces it to be dealt to enemy creatures. But also, it's an okay card just because if that scenario isn't happening, you can play it just for the 1 amber bonus. Double Whistling Darts here, a couple of my favorites. I think it's interesting that with Carpet Flotsam and the Whistling Darts, it's a damage buildup, so it can make it easier if we want to set up a kind of a throwing stars thing. Grey Rider is in here just because through playing, fighting, and reaping, it forces another creature to fight, which is recurable, though Grey Rider doesn't stay on the board very often with its 2 power and no protection. Then Mighty Lance, deal 3 damage to a creature and 3 damage to its neighbor. Again, more damage-based creature control, great for those throwing stars. And then a larger scale creature control here that is less targeted. For each friendly Mars creature you control, destroy a non-Mars creature with lower power. So, with our Zorg and our Zixlix Dominator, I think that Exterminate will be pretty good because it's just a targeted destroy 2. I just have to hope that the opponent doesn't have any wards or that we have those creatures in play when we pull Exterminate. All in all, not a bad deck. It does a lot of things decently. I think that you will almost definitely always try and mulligan for a treasure map. I think there's a lot of variety to the hands, but I think that the way that this deck is made, it's going to be hard to end up with a complete garbage hand. I think a lot of them are going to have very similar versatility, just in different kind of paths. So I think you'll always try and mulligan for that treasure map if possible. And yeah. Last thing we have to talk about here is our speed and board. Pop that up right now. So we've got actually no recursion, no disruption. The only thing in other is our Nightforge. We've got some decent creature protection with Lion Boutrum boosting the neighbors, and then we've got Hideaway Hole giving elusive and a couple of taunt creatures. Then we've got, for efficiency, it's just the evasion portal, which again is good. We want to get creatures out, especially for like Hypnotic Command or some of the other things. So I think our main efficiency being invasion portal is nice. And then our board power is huge. It's Ixlix Dominator, and then Shield of Justice is actually in here, which I thought was interesting, just because it makes it so that your creatures take no damage for the remainder of your turn. So I think that that kind of leads its way into a lot of different effective fights and stuff like that. The rest of it is your typical creatures. Lion Boutrum added a lot because there were 3 of them. And then we've got Knuckles Bolton, Sir Marrows, Shall Safeguard. It's just a big board that's really good at fighting. Okay, this is a really interesting deck. It doesn't do creature control crazy well, but it's got good effective power, good creature protection, good amber control. I think it plays really slow. So you would want to kind of meter out your amber control if you can. Maybe it's worth holding on to a card or two, because I think with Invasion Portal being the only form of efficiency, you're not going to go super fast in the deck, but I think it's got more longevity with creating an extensive board state, especially if you can start maybe archiving with the Think Drone pretty consistently. But it all in all, not a bad deck. I'm excited to play it out. I think that it would hold its own pretty well amongst the 64 sasses. Something I thought was interesting was that each house was actually the same sass rating. So each house has its own sass rating, if you don't know, and they were all 21. So it was going up to 63, and then we got a +1 from that meta. So really interesting stuff. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for those shorts. I don't know when I'm going to make one of those or pump them out, but they'll be coming. Like I said, it'll be mostly about combos that I really like, just because I think that that's some good KeyForge content. You can sit in a minute. I just want to make more content, and I think that that's a decent way to go about it. Obviously, there will be more videos just like this and different videos in the future, but thank you so much for watching. And as a good friend Zach Armstrong always says, don't forget the most important part of KeyForge is the person sitting across the table. You guys have a great night.